Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the C.R. Lawrence DC51 door closer in an A finish, which is aluminum. And I have all of the contents spread out here on my desk so that we can review it. And we'll do a visual tour, we'll do a dimensional review of the product, we'll go over the installation instructions. So this is a size 1 door closer. It's really small. This is going to be where you have maybe a hollow core door. Maybe you have a door that is, maybe it's on a restaurant and you've got bathroom doors and you need a door closer to close that door. This could be a good option for that. According to the installation instructions, this has a maximum door width of 35 inch with a maximum weight of 66 pounds. So keep your installation, I would say, compatible with the maximum requirements. If you're going to install it onto a hollow core door, you're probably going to definitely want to consider purchasing some through bolts for these. We can sell the through bolts to you separately, and in fact, I will add a link down below. There will be a link down below to through bolts that you can purchase separately. Here is the arm. And this closer is going to come from the factory, compatible, or capable, I should say, of being installed in a top jamb mount, in a parallel arm mount, or of course the regular arm mount, which is handy. Which means it's going to include the parallel arm bracket, as seen here. Then you'll have a cap for the one end of the spindle that you will not be using to cover that off. And then finally your screw package. This screw, it's the only one in the package like it. That's going to be for the arm to the body of the door closer. Then you're going to have, you'll have 4 machine screws, 4 sheet metal screws for the body, the 4 holes that you'll need here and here. Then you're going to have, lastly, 2 screws for the shoe, or 3 screws for the parallel arm bracket, and 1 screw to hold the forearm onto the parallel arm bracket if you're installing it in that fashion. And as you divide the screws out, you immediately start to see, well, okay, I need 4 here, I need possibly 2 here, or 3 here, I need 1 for the arm, and then it's really easy to determine where the screws go. We'll go over that a bit in a moment when we get to the installation instructions. Overall length of the body, 7 3/16. Center to center on this body, 6.5 inch. That's important. That's your footprint, 6.5 inch. So if you're replacing one, 6.5 from the center here to the center here. At height, generally about 3/4 inch. Or I should say the vertical center to center. Looks like it's a bit heavy on that. No, it's 3/4. So we've got the overall length of the body, overall height of the body, about 1 5/8. Overall projection of the body from the face of the door, or the header, 2 5/16. Just for sake of taking the dimensions, overall length of the arm looks like it's about 18.5. Parallel arm bracket, width, about 2 1/4. Overall length, about 3 7/8. Okay, so we've done a visual tour, we've done a dimensional review. Let's get to the installation instructions. This is what is going to be included with the package. So, door closer installation instructions generally, not generally, but they all generally fit a specific format. You're always going to have some sort of summary page, and then you will always have a page that tells you how to adjust the door closer body in terms of its valves. Those 1 and 2 valves that you see there, these 2 slotted screwdriver slots. You'll always have 3 sections for the 3 different types of mounting: regular arm, top jamb mount, parallel arm. And we'll discuss those. This closer is available in the aluminum finish, and I'm looking at my list here. It's also available in the dark bronze finish and a black finish as well. Okay, so that makes that easy. This installation instructions actually has a full-size template. And it's a very generic installation, what's here. If you're going to install it, you know, for a right-hand door, you'll use this template. Is that correct? Yeah, well, it has to be. If it's a right-hand door, you'll actually use this paper template if you like. And if it's a left-hand door, you'll use the other end of the paper template. Now, foregoing using the paper template, because not all door closers come with a full-size template, even though many do, it's going to give you all the dimensional locations for the holes. And because this is a size 1 closer, going to be used on an incredibly light door, they're not giving you more information than absolutely necessary to install the material. What I mean by that is the dimension from the center line of the hinge to where the body hole, the first 2 holes start to install the body, is directly related to the degree of opening. Looking at the 3.5 inch dimension that is called out here for the regular arm mount, and the 3 9/16 for a top jamb, and 3 9/16 for the parallel arm mount. 3.5 inch apparently. It's going to swing to 180 degrees because that's the way that they've got this listed. If you didn't want it to swing that far, you could move that further away from the hinge. They don't give us a table like all door closer installations do, but my guess is if you really wanted it to stop at about, 100 degrees, you're probably going to increase that to somewhere between 6.5 and 7 inch, would be my guess, if you wanted to limit the door closer opening that far. But if you're looking for an installation that doesn't matter and you're just going to put it on the door, just use it the way that the template calls it out. So, summary of the item, how to use the valve adjustments, and then the 3 different methods of installing it. Everything on the front page literally gives you a full-size template when you're doing a regular arm mount. So everything on the front page is based on a regular arm mount. And a regular arm mount, just a quick definition of terms here, regular arm mount is when you're installing the door closer on the body, on the pull side of the door, and the arm shoe is on the header. Most common. Interior door that swings in, you're going to install it on the pull side of the door, you would want a regular arm mount. The next typical, and probably not at all common for this closer, would be a top jamb mount, and that's when the door closer body is mounted on the header, and then on the push side of the opening, and the arm shoe mounts to the face of the door. And that would be typical and common when you walk out of your favorite coffee shop. It's very likely that you have a top jamb mounted closer there for other reasons, but a top jamb mount would be typical to see in an outside exterior swing application where the door closer body is going to be mounted on the inside of the door, the interior of the opening. Finally, and probably very unusual for this closer, would be a parallel arm where the body is going to be mounted on the push side, but this time it's attached to the door. Let me back up. The top jamb is where you're mounting the body to the header, and the parallel arm, again, push side mount, is going to be where you install the body on the door itself. That would be typically seen in an exterior application where the door swings out and you are going to mount the door closer onto the door like you'd very commonly see in an exit door any sort of commercial building. You'll see parallel arm mount all the time. Top jamb mount is used in the aluminum storefront industry very commonly because of the narrow nature of the top rail of the aluminum door. So rather than you add a drop plate to get the closer body installed onto the door as you would have in a parallel arm fashion, they just flip it over, put the body up on the header, then the arm to the door, and that solves that problem. But in a commercial setting, you don't really see top jamb. Not that you shouldn't, and I think it would be a very efficient way to install the door closer. Less parts. It mechanically works more efficiently because of the orientation of the main arm to the opening of the door itself. But those are the three different methods. Once you determine how you're going to install the door closer, just move to that part of the installation instructions and work from there. Regular arm is probably going to be the most common. Again, you might use this closer in a coat closet in a restaurant. That's where you see these tiny little closers sometimes. So the important aspect to remember, regardless of the method of installation, is there's always going to be a dimension, always, from the center line of the hinge, okay, to these first screw holes. And for a regular arm, as we said earlier, it's 3 9/16. Regardless of it being regular arm, top jamb, or parallel arm, you're always going to start center of the hinges to the center of these, the vertical center of the hinge barrel to the vertical center line of these screws every time. That's the first dimension you need to know. They're telling you that it's 3.5 for 3 9/16 or 3 9/16, or 3.5 for the parallel arm, regular top jamb parallel arm. Once you have those holes marked, meaning the 4 holes, 3.5 inch over, 1, then the length of the body, which was 6.5, which they give you vertically, you've got 4 holes marked now. Just mark them with pencil, let's say. Then you're going to follow the installation instructions for the vertical height of where you're going to locate the holes. So you have on the regular arm installation, you've got the reference here of 3/4 inch. That's from the center of the 2 holes for the closer body. Then you can see that you're going to go up 2 1/16 to get the center line of the arm shoe. The center line of the arm shoe. Okay? After that, you can mark those 2 holes once you know that the center to center of those 2 holes appears to be 1 3/4. Which it is. Doing a reality check on dimensions to the installation instructions is always a good idea. So we've got the body mounted. We've got the 2 holes for the shoe located. After that, they're telling you that the top of the door to the top of the first screw is 1 inch for a regular arm mount. That's backing up. That's important to know when you lay out those first 4 holes, how high they are off of the top of the door. So you're going to have your 3.5 inch dimension 1 inch down from the top of the door to the top of the screws, 3/4 inch down, then 2 1/16 up to the arm shoe. And that would cover all of the dimensions there. So 3.5 inch from the center line of the hinge, 1 inch from the top of the door to the top screw right at the tip of my finger. So now you can locate those 4 holes. You can locate the bottom hole as a result because of that 3/4 inch dimension. You can get the center line of these two holes because of the 2 1/16 inch dimension. Then you're going to get 7 1/8 inch from that hole all the way to the center line of the hinge. And you're going to, yeah, that's it. That's how you'll locate all of the holes. And whether or not you're doing a top jamb or a parallel arm, you're going to follow the same logic. You just need to read the installation instructions and study them in your mind before applying anything, marking the holes. Then, once you've got everything marked, stop and do a reality check. You don't want to drill holes on the wrong side of the door. You don't want to put holes for the body on the push side of the door when you're doing a regular arm. It's really hard to fill those holes. Take it from me, I've done it. So once you have a reality check done, literally begin to install the closer by pre-drilling the holes according to the screws that are included. And lots of installation instructions will also include a bill of materials of the screws that are included. I don't know the sizes of these screws at all. The hinge, you know, generally you've got 1/4 inch bolts, 1/4 20 for the body. These look smaller than 1/4 20. But nonetheless, you'll work with the screws in hand. You'll pre-drill your holes accordingly. And that's how you'll go about doing that. These, it might be 10/30, well, it's hard to say what size screws those are because they don't give it to us. They look like they might be 12/24, but that would be really unusual for a closer for machine screws. And if you're doing a parallel arm bracket, a parallel arm installation, same sort of logic that you're following. It gives you dimensions on where to locate everything, including the dimension it gives you from the face of the door to where the parallel arm bracket is going to be initiated here. If you're going to do a parallel arm installation, you will remove the shoe, and this will then mount to this stud with a screw from the screw package. Okay. That covers everything on this door closer that I can think of, except the adjustment valves. Now it tells us that we've got 2 valves, 1 and 2. 1 is what's called the closing speed according to the installation instructions. We would call that the sweep speed. That's from about 12 degrees to about 80 degrees generally, plus or minus. The 2 valve is the latch speed, and that's from 0 to about 12. And when you get the closer body installed and you cycle it a couple of times, you can then make adjustments. If you wanted to increase the speed at which it goes from 90 down to the latch part of the valve, 0 to 10 is your latch, about 10, 12 to about 90 is going to be your sweep, or what they call your closing speed valve. If you want to close that valve, turn it clockwise, just like a regular nut and bolt would work. Make 1 or 2 revolutions and observe, cycle the door, and then observe how its behavior changes, and then adjust accordingly. What you have to be very, very important to know is that if you turn those counterclockwise enough, they're going to come out, and the fluid that's inside of here will come out and will render the door closer destroyed. It will not work. There's no way to put the oil back in the body. You'll render it useless at that point. So don't open the valves any more than you need to. Install them first, and I would not probably make more than 3 revolutions counterclockwise at the very, maybe 2 revolutions. If the door closer is still not closing fast enough, well, then you're still in a safe range to back that out a little bit further. But it comes set from the factory to do most installations, so I really wouldn't worry about having to adjust that very much. You might just tweak it, is the bottom line. After you've made a change, cycle it 2 or 3 times so that you can get an honest behavioral observation out of the door closer once you've adjusted the valves. That covers everything that's important on this closer. Now, there are some links down below this video that will allow you to review the product page from the manufacturer's catalog. Just a cut sheet really is what it is. An overview of their different closers, very typical and common closers that you're going to bump into. Be mindful that the number 1 in the part number refers to a size 1 closer, which is for a very light and small door. If you have a typical common commercial door, you're probably going to want a 3 or a 4. If it's a parallel arm mount, order a 4, because the way that the arm sits in relationship to the spindle, you lose one size of spring tension in terms of a loss of efficiency. If it's a parallel arm, order a 4 for a 3-foot commercial door. If it's a top jam or regular arm, order a size 3 when you're looking at these sized closers. Otherwise, order a adjustable spring closer like the PR40 that's listed on the second page. You've got some warranty information from the factory. That's nice to be able to pull that up. A cross-reference chart is also very handy, and it lists lots of different importers of door closers there, to be sure. You might be familiar with International. That's a very common name. And there's others there that allow you to convert it to a C.R. Lawrence part number. Installation instructions are down below for this. They are included. I wouldn't do any preparation before you had all the parts in hand. And speaking of installation instructions, if you're going to install more than a couple of these, I would actually take the time to make a template. I'd get a piece of wood, and I would cut it to the right size, or to a size that would be adequate for the installation. And I'd make it so that I could just square it off to the top of the door, or to a corner of the door, and have all of my holes located, so that I could just square it off and mark. The amount of time it takes to make the template is really not that great, and the efficiencies you're going to get are going to be realized by door closer number 3. So if you had a handful of these, I'd make a template, because where the errors really come in is in the fact that you've just mismeasured something and didn't catch it prior to drilling a hole. So that template, once you know that the template is good, and you're using it the same way every time, you won't have any sort of exposure to getting something drilled incorrectly, which does, again, like I said, cause trouble because you can't fill holes that are in a door. The name C.R. Lawrence is ethically synonymous with door hardware, with shower door enclosure hardware like hinges and all of the towel bars and push and pull bar sets that you'll see on frameless glass shower doors. They get into architectural metals and aluminum storefront. They have a line of panic exit hardware that is in the shape of ladder poles, the only company that I'm aware of that has them, and a variety of other things. There's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the C.R. Lawrence products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. If you have any questions on the C.R. Lawrence DC51A aluminum size 1 door closer, very unusual for you to buy this because it's a really small size. But if you have a really thin, I should say a narrow or a light door, could also be thin as well. This could be the perfect closer for you. You would not want to use on a 40-pound door a size 3 closer. It will physically feel too strong to open to you. Any questions on the DC51A or any other C.R. Lawrence product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.